With the NBA postponed for a few months, I've decided to treat these times as the beginning of the 2020 off-season. With that said, throughout the season, there were plenty of rumors about potential trades and players being unhappy in their roles and on their teams. So, in today's video, I'm going to be looking at 5 NBA players who may be on the trading block this summer and some trade ideas and suggestions for their respective teams with reasoning behind them. If you're new here and enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe for more NBA content like this. But with that being said, let's get right into this top 5. Number 5. Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield's story this year has been a very interesting one to follow. After demanding extra money from his contract extension, he received it and then started dominating, going on an insane hot streak. He would cool off a bit, but he was still putting up great stats of 20 points a night with 3 assists, and he was shooting amazingly from 3. Then for some reason, he got suddenly moved to the bench, which Walton decided to do to most likely allow Bogdan Bogdanovic to thrive in the starting lineup, which was a bit confusing to me, and especially for Buddy. Now don't get me wrong, Buddy Hield's actually been really good off the bench this season, averaging great stats there, and these stats are above his rest of season average, but he has expressed his frustration with that role, and it's starting to become likely he requests a trade this summer due to it. So, if he does request a trade, who should the Kings trade for him? What would a deal look like? In my opinion, if the Kings were to trade Hield, the most realistic trade they could make would be making a deal with the Chicago Bulls. Here is what it would look like. The Sacramento Kings received Thaddeus Young, Tom Satoransky and Chris Dunn, as well as a first-round pick for Buddy Hield and Corey Joseph. So, why does this trade benefit both sides? Dunn is a great defensive guard who would be a perfect backup for Sacramento in my opinion. He leads the league in steal rate and has been pretty good on offense, nothing amazing, but it's nothing awful either. Thaddeus Young is also a great pickup for the Kings. He's great on both ends of the floor and is also a fantastic veteran, a leader who can rally the young guys and be a mentor for the team. The person that intrigued me quite a lot in this trade though is Satoransky, as I think he could be later moved by the Kings for someone else, or he could be given a good role off the bench for them. I wouldn't say 6-man, but a valuable contributor nonetheless. Losing Buddy Hield will obviously affect the Kings, but if he requests a trade, there's no point in keeping him around. Corey Joseph will be replaced quite easily by Dunn and Satoransky, so this shouldn't be too big of an issue either. Also, with the way Chicago has been playing, I wouldn't be surprised if the first round pick turns out to be very valuable down the track, especially if Jim Boylen remains coach. For the Bulls, obviously getting Buddy Hield is a major W. He's a great shooter, and with the unfortunate injuries to Otto Porter Jr., he could hopefully feel part of his role whilst he's gone. I think a combination of him and Zach LaVine in the backcourt would also be very intriguing, and the shooting power of those two and Otto Porter Jr. when he returns in the same lineup could be lethal to opposing teams. I also don't mind the addition of Joseph. He's not a terrible defender, but he probably wouldn't get too many minutes anyway. That doesn't really matter though, as Buddy is the main guy here, and getting him is what matters. Overall, this is why I like the trade for both sides. The Kings get a valuable first round pick, a great vet in Thaddeus Young, and a great perimeter defender in Chris Dunn, who has potential to expand his offensive game. The Bulls get Buddy Hield, who is one of the league's best shooters and is a near elite level offensive player. It's a solid deal for both sides, and no one really loses in my opinion. Again, this probably only happens if Hield requests a trade, but I think it's quite likely to happen this off-season. With that all being said though, let's move on to number 4 on the list. Number 4. Rudy Gobert. Before this season began, there was no way I thought Gobert could possibly be traded this year. But with the whole coronavirus thing happening, and with Gobert pretty much starting it all by being very immature about it, it has created some uneasiness in the Jazz locker room. This is particularly shown with reports coming out saying Donovan Mitchell is upset with how Gobert treated the situation, And even in an interview recently with Good Morning America, Mitchell said it took a while for him to cool off over the whole thing, so this whole ordeal has clearly upset him. Another report mentioned that things may change in Utah, depending on how Mitchell and Gobert react when they join forces later in the year, which is a sign for a potential trade. It may seem a bit unlikely now, but if Gobert and Mitchell cannot build up a strong relationship again as teammates, it may cause for a trade down the track. So, what would a Rudy Gobert trade look like, and who would go for him? One team that has emerged in trade rumors for Rudy Gobert is the Houston Rockets, as they are very interested in acquiring him if he becomes available. So, what would a trade look like between the Rockets and the Jazz for Gobert? In my opinion, it would look something like this. The Rockets receive Rudy Gobert for Eric Gordon, Daniel House Jr., Ben McLemore, Tyson Chandler, Isaiah Hartenstein, as well as a second-round pick for this year's draft and a future first-round pick. You're probably wondering, why would the Rockets want Rudy Gobert, considering they just traded Clint Capella? Well, if this trade were to go down, the Rockets would be willing to make this move because their current small ball lineup failed to work in the playoffs. Just before the season ended, the struggles were showing with the Rockets' fresh roster, taking L's to teams such as the Knicks and Hornets. Adding Gobert brings back the rim protection they need and the rebounding prowess that has been killing them lately. Gobert, as we all know, is a fantastic defender, a two-time Defensive Player of the Year, and even though his offense is limited, it's exactly the kind of offense the Rockets like to run with their big men. Lots of pick and rolls, a lot of alley-oops, and finishes at the rim, so I think Gobert would slide in fantastically to the Rockets group. The Rockets do unfortunately lose Eric Gordon and Daniel House Jr., two guys that have been through and through with the Rockets and have made themselves a part of the core group of guys on this team. However, losing them shouldn't haunt Houston too much, as due to injuries and inconsistency since Westbrook joined the squad, Gordon has lost his role in the team somewhat, now a bench player. Daniel House also isn't that big of an impact maker to be missed as well, even though he is one of my favourite players in the league. Losing out on the others isn't too big of an issue either, as they're mainly garbage time players, though Hartenstein was showing potential. For Utah, the biggest pickup is Eric Gordon, as he can add some scoring prowess to the Jazz lineup or can be flipped for more assets down the track, as guys like Jordan Clarkson may be seen as more valuable than him. Daniel House Jr. can be a great shooter they can rely on off the bench, shooting 37% from 3 this year. I love the addition of Isaiah Hartenstein for them though, because when he started for the Rockets, he's been really successful and had some great games. Unfortunately, D'Antoni hated playing him for some reason, even though he was shining, so on the Jazz, I'd hope he gets more of an opportunity to prove his worth and show off his potential a bit more. Obviously for Utah, losing Gobert hurts, but I think what they get in return compensates enough, with the picks and guys like Tyson Chandler and Hartenstein filling his role for the time being. The trade will sting, but if the chemistry is running low for the team after this whole situation, especially between the two All-Stars, that's not a good thing and needs to be fixed, and sometimes the best way to do that is with a trade. Overall though, I love this trade for both sides, and the idea for both sides actually excites me a lot. Again, this trade is a tad unlikely to happen. It's all really up to Donovan Mitchell and how he feels coming back with Gobert. But if need be, this trade is here for the Jazz or Rockets to offer, and I personally believe both teams come out as winners. Number 3. Myles Turner. At the trade deadline this year, a player many expected to get moved was Myles Turner. Turner had a promising career, with many believing he could turn into a star, but that has not been the case and has since been moved to the bench on Indiana. Though the Pacers were rejecting all calls about Turner, there is still a chance he gets traded this offseason to a team looking to revitalize their squad, or maybe a contender in need of a big man. My first thought would be for Turner to be moved to the Celtics, but I found it was hard to make a deal work between both teams. This left me with another team I believe could make a move for Turner and also allow the Pacers to give a player a fresh start. The team is the Orlando Magic, and this is what the trade would look like between Orlando and the Pacers. The Pacers trade away Myles Turner and TJ Leaf to the Orlando Magic for Aaron Gordon and Khem Birch. For the Pacers, I actually love this deal. Aaron Gordon has not been producing what was expected of him as of late, and whilst his dunk contest performances were terrific, his overall game and stats have not been. He's regressed stats-wise this season, averaging only 14.4 points per game, 7.6 rebounds per game, and is shooting poorly. 43% from the field, which is okay, but an awful 30% from 3, on 4 attempts per game too. On the Pacers though, I feel as if he could revive his career, as I think he could fit in really well with Sabonis, Oladipo, and Brogdon. There's going to be more movement for Gordon in Indiana, so if the Pacers keep him engaged and moving by screening and cutting constantly, it should create easy opportunities with the help from Brogdon and Oladipo's passing. For the Magic, Turner is a good pickup. It benefits Turner the most, as I believe he could be a good starting center for them, and the Orlando Magic can have Vucevic slide to the power forward spot. This is also a situation for career revitalization, as I believe Turner will get more opportunities on offense than he did in Indiana, hopefully leading to some improvements in his stats. Overall, this is just a really solid deal for both sides, but particularly for the Pacers. I really like the idea of Gordon joining, and I think it could make their offense so much more unpredictable for next season. If Oladipo returns to a star level, if Sabonis remains as dominant as he's been, if Brogdon stays as efficient as he is, Gordon's fit would be out of this world perfect and be a very intriguing prospect. The Magic side is good, and Turner can hopefully start to break out there, particularly with an all-star big man and mentor in Vucevic beside him. Again, it's a great deal for both sides, but now, let's move on to number 2. Number 2, DeMar DeRozan. A player that was also expected to be traded at this past deadline was DeMar DeRozan, yet he remained a Spur. However, I think it's even more likely he's traded this offseason than he was at the deadline, as reports are coming out he's frustrated with the Spurs offense and how it's run with him in it. This makes me believe either a trade request is imminent or the Spurs may decide to blow things up finally, especially how their season went this year. So, what would a trade look like involving DeMar DeRozan? I think if any team were to trade for DeRozan, it would be the Orlando Magic, but since I have spoken about this trade before on my channel, I'm going to look at another one I find equally as realistic, and it involves the New York Knicks. The Knicks receive DeMar DeRozan, and the Spurs get back Bobby Portis, Frank Ntilikina, Dennis Smith Jr., and Damian Dotson. So, why is this a good trade for both sides? The Knicks finally get the star player they've been trying to land for ages in DeMar DeRozan. DeRozan's game style actually suits the Knicks system a lot in my opinion, so I doubt he'd have trouble sliding in here. Also, a core group of guys like Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, Taj Gibson, DeRozan and Knox is intriguing, and though it's probably not playoff level yet, I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks actually contend for a spot there with this squad. Losing Bobby Portis shouldn't affect the Knicks that much, as they have like 5 other guys playing the same position as him for some reason, and Ntilikina and Dennis Smith Jr. have both been extremely disappointing, and perhaps a fresh start in San Antonio, a place with a fantastic system and coaching staff, will benefit them. The Spurs gaining Smith and Ntilikina gives them some young projects to work with, and trading away DeRozan frees up minutes for Lonnie Walker, who's been showing immense potential as the season closed out. Losing DeMar DeRozan obviously hurts, but I think at the end of the day, it may be time to blow things up in San Antonio. Overall, it's a good trade here for both sides. The Knicks get the star they've been searching for, and the Spurs get plenty of young talent for the future as they look to blow it all up. You can't go wrong with this deal, and it makes a lot of sense for both teams. We'll just have to wait and see what happens this offseason with the Spurs, and see if they're finally ready to take that deep dive into rebuilding territory. Number 1. Joel Embiid. And finally, we have Joel Embiid at number 1. This should have been obvious. Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons have had their difficulties all year playing together. Their play styles just did not suit each other, and they really held each other back. They overall struggled to coexist. This was seen when Embiid was injured and Simmons flourished, averaging close to 24 and 10 during that time. And we saw the vice versa just recently, with Embiid playing really well to finish off the season before the suspension while Simmons was out. This now leaves the 76ers with a tough decision, as it's clear their stars play better without each other. So, which one do they trade? In my opinion, it has to be Embiid, as Simmons is far easier to build around and has a higher ceiling and more potential, as well as being a much healthier player. So, who wants Embiid then? In my opinion, this is the best trade for the 76ers, and it involves the Portland Trailblazers. The 76ers get CJ McCollum, Jusuf Nurkic, Trevor Ariza, and a second-round pick for Joel Embiid to the Blazers. The Blazers have been needing to blow up their backcourt for a while, but this season is all the proof the organization needed to make sure it happens. CJ McCollum has been terribly inconsistent this season, and is one of the main reasons why the Blazers flopped this year. Nurkic is upgraded by Embiid by a long way, so it's okay losing him, and the Lillard-Embiid combo would be extremely fun and interesting to watch. For the 76ers, getting CJ McCollum provides shooting and spacing, which the team desperately needs. I've gone over it many times before. If the 76ers can create a system for Ben Simmons similar to Giannis's, he can be very successful in my opinion, and truth be told, CJ McCollum could easily become his Chris Middleton. Jusuf Nurkic will be a great cost-efficient replacement of Joel Embiid as well, especially when he's back to being fully healthy. Trevor Ariza is also a good addition, as he again helps add to the spacing and shooting the 76ers need badly if they want to succeed. Overall, this is a great trade in my opinion for both sides, as it upgrades players and fixes the majority of the issues both teams have. CJ McCollum should be a great fit in Philly, and vice versa with Embiid in Portland. Whether this happens or not, we'll have to wait and see, but it's definitely time for both the 76ers and Portland Trailblazers to make some moves, and both need to make a decision that will make or break their franchise, trading away one of their superstar players. And that will conclude the top 5. What do you guys think of this? What are your thoughts on these trades? Which ones are most likely to happen, and which ones are too outrageous to you? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. For those who made it this far, I appreciate it a ton, it truly means a lot. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop it a like and subscribe, but with that being said, I am out. Peace.